As you know by this proposal and by the 6-point economic development plan that the county executive laid out last December in his inauguration speech, Mr. Leggett has come a long way in accepting the value of privatizing the economic development function. He accepts the need for greater private sector engagement in economic development, especially in marketing and business development. He believes this move will significantly strengthen and institutionalize private sector partnership in economic development, create a more nimble and adaptive organizational structure, and improve operational efficiency.
We've been asked for years, why don't we adopt the Fairfax model? And we've maintained the government structure that we had. And at this point, I think we've run out of answers to that question. I think that, you know, we had a vacancy in the office of director. We all knew Mr. Silverman. He was a dynamic individual. And then when he left, Mr. Leggett made the determination that he was tired of answering why haven't we adopted the Fairfax model. And he sort of said, I give in. Okay, business community, you try it. Go ahead. And under those circumstances, I just don't see how maintaining it as a public agency can work given the executive's determination to move in this direction. I don't see how we can give back to the executive a department that he's already determined he wants to remove from his purview. I don't see how that can be functional.
With the idea of the Office of Business Services, we have an opportunity to think this through and harmonize this. So I think that's a promising direction, but you know, we'll see how we take it up.
I think there have been many conversations about this, and I think as you point out, a lot of it has been the uncertainty of the situation that's led to concerns, and I'm really very pleased that this has come forward. This is something that's been a priority of mine for a long time, and it's the evolution of what we did 5 years ago, and this would replace the MBDC and put us in a much stronger position with a much clearer identity, I think, for economic development.
I've been frustrated equally with the direction that we've been in, but you know, over the years, the biggest complaint I thought was our absolute failure to be a recruiter out in the real world, and that people criticized the structure of what we had and said, you're too broad, you do all the little stuff, and you don't have the ability to focus on doing what we really care about, which is the big stuff. And you know, ag was, you know, people say, why is ag in this department? And so I felt, you know, that it was a legitimate criticism to say it's too wide an organization. And I look at what's being proposed, and I feel like you've created an almost equally wide organization, except you've shifted it under the private sector.
I believe helping existing businesses solve their problems, including problems in dealing with government, is a critical part of retaining existing businesses and helping them grow. So you cannot take that core function out of business retention and still charge the organization with business retention. So what you do, and there are many tried and true models, even online software tools that you can subscribe to do that well, which will cut through the clutter of many different agencies.
And I think a lot of this is the assurance that a corporation would not run amok, so to speak, is that you have an 11-member board who is appointed by the county government, a partnership between the executive and the council. I think we would rely on the fact that it would be extremely unlikely that a majority of this board is going to ignore a serious ethical breach. You have, I think, the assumption, I think it's a very reasonable assumption, that board members who have a fiduciary duty to the corporation to perform their duties appropriately are going to be in a position to police themselves in that regard.
As I understand it, it would be like with MBDC, they have a contract with the county to perform certain functions. It's associated with the dollars.
Correct.
And this would be the same.
Right.
Correct? So there would be a contract which would have a lot of the standard bells and whistles of our wonderful procurement process. Well, I don't know how, reviewed by the county attorney. That's where all the hang-ups are, I understand, Mr. Hanson. But for sufficiency and protection of the taxpayer, those terms would be part of the contract with this.